The basic purpose of this video is to make you understand the mediation and moderation analysis using SPSS and with special reference to Andrew and Hayes process macro. This video has two parts. This is the second part. In the first part, we discussed about the mediation and moderation concepts. We also talked about the main types of the variables. And then we discussed some very important points related to the mediation and moderation analysis. So in this video, what we are going to do is we will be using SPSS and especially Andrew and Hayes macro process to analyze the mediation and moderation process. So for this video, we will be using these models, or you can say these variables. So for our mediation model, we will be using creativity as our independent variable. We will be using innovation as our mediating variable with M, and we will be using organizational performance or performance as a dependent variable. So this is the example that we are going to see in SPSS. And then for our moderation analysis, we will be using creativity as an independent variable, innovation as dependent variable, and creative culture as a moderating variable. So we will be using these two examples to know how to analyze and interpret the mediation and moderation analysis in SPSS using Andrew Hayes macro process. So let's go to our SPSS sheet. And here, if you can see, we have already created some variables which are known as creativity, innovation, culture, and performance. So what we are going to do is, first of all, we'll need to see that how to install this macro in our SPSS. So if you go to your SPSS without installing this macro, and if you go to this analyze regression, you will not see anything like this in your SPSS. This is saying process by Andrew F. Hayes, and this is the website. So if you have not installed it, it will not give you this option, and you cannot use the Andrew and Hayes process model to analyze moderation and mediation. So first of all, we need to understand how we can install this macro, process macro, before we start analyzing our mediation and moderation. So for that purpose, let's go to our folder. I'll also give you the link, and you can download this process 215. And when you download this process 215, you need to unzip it. And when you'll unzip it, you'll get these files. And in these files, if you just look at this process SPD, you just need to double click it, and it is going to ask you if you want to install it, edit, or you want to cancel it. Just press the install. And because I've already installed it, it is saying that you've already installed this dialog. Otherwise, it is going to install into your SPSS. So this is that simple. In order to download this macro, you can go to Andrew Hayes website, and you can download it from there. And I'll also add it in the link that you can directly download from. Now, once we download and install this macro in our SPSS software, now what next do we have to do? We have to go to this analyze, regression, and this process by Andrew Hayes. When you're going to click it, this is the window that you're going to get when you need to analyze in Andrew Hayes process macro. So you can see that process procedures for SPSS written by Andrew F. Hayes. Now, as we discussed, first we are going to analyze the mediation model. So let's go and take our independent variable as creativity here, innovation, is our mediating variable. As we said, it is our M variable, so it's going to go to this box. And performance is our dependent variable. It is denoted as Y. So you need to keep these W, Z, V, Q, M, X, and Y names in your mind, because these are the one which are mentioned in the Andrew Hayes file when you will be using different models. Now, few very important things to understand here is that first of all, I have given these very short names to these variables. Like for creativity, I have just written creative. For innovation, I have just written a short version of innovation or innovate. And for organizational performance, I've just written perform. And as you can see here, I've just given it a culture and not culture for creativity. The main reason I have given these short names is that Andrew Hayes process does not take more than 8-letter word, which means if I would have written creativity, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 is the maximum limit. So if you take more than 8 characters word, it is not going to take it. So it will give you different errors. So this is the first thing that you need to understand. You just need to keep your names shorter than or equal to 8 alphabets. Secondly, you must see that what model you are using. For example, by default, it is model 4, but you can always move up and down to change the model up to 76 models. Now, as we've already studied about what to do with the mediation and moderation, you need to go for model number 4 in order to analyze the mediation. So because we are performing mediation analysis here, we will be giving it model number 4. Now make sure when you have given model number 4, the process is assuming that innovation M variable is your mediating variable. And if I give model 1, for example, now the same variable is being understood as moderator. So make sure what you are doing. So we need mediation. That is why we are putting model number 4. Another thing that you need to remember here is that they keep on making new processes, new procedures. For different procedures, they might give different model numbers to different kind of analyses. So you need for the process which is 215 or which we are using in this video, the model 4 is the mediation and model 1 is the moderation analysis model number. Now, second thing that you need to do is you need to go to this options, click it. There is already one thing, confidence interval. This is already checked. The two things that we can do here is that we can go for total effect model and we can go for Sobel test. This test was previously used for mediation. So if these three are checked, then we are fine, we are ready to go. And if you want to change the number of decimal of your outcome, you can change it, but just leave it to 4, which is the right length. So continue and make sure that everything is in place and just click OK. It is going to take some time because it is using a bootstrapping method. Bootstrapping method is it uses iteration of the data, iteration of the data through which it creates multiple samples of the same data. Now we have this analysis with us and let's start from the beginning. Now from the beginning, what it's saying is that you're using model 4, making sure that you're using a mediation model, and Y is your performance, X is your creativity, and M, which is the mediator, is your innovation. The sample size we are using is 250. Now, this is the analysis that it has given. The first table shows us the relationship between certain variables. The second shows multiple regression with certain variables. The third shows the model summary, which we already discussed in our regression video. R square is here. These variables are here. But for now, the most important table is this last one, which says total, direct, and indirect effects. Now, please make sure that you read it correctly. This is the total effect of X on Y, the direct effect of X on Y, and indirect effect of X on Y. And then there is a normal theory test, which is known as a Sobel test that we just checked before analyzing this data. Now, as we've already got a very clear concept of what is total, direct, and indirect effect, now if you just look at this, it is saying that total effect on dV of IV and the mediator is 0.798. This is the total effect. This is the direct effect, which is 0.1299. And this is the direct effect, indirect effect, 0.6682. So we have these three values: the total effect, the direct effect, and the indirect effects. Now, just look at another thing, which is normal theory test. These two values are almost the same, and they should be the same, because normal theory test or the Sobel test reconfirms that the indirect effects that we got in our process macro are correct, with the Z value significant, which also means that these effects are also acceptable and significant. Now, look at some more things here. Effect is fine. T is also fine. T is also significant. And then there is this very important thing that we need to understand, that is LLCI and ULCI. LLCI means lower level confidence interval. ULCI means upper level confidence interval. And you can see you also got it with direct effect. You also got it with the indirect effect. So this is another indication of significance. But how do we read it? For a layman understanding, you can say if both of them have the same sign, which means positive or negative, then these values are significant. If LLCI and ULCI has the same sign, which means either both of them are negative or both of them are positive, then we can see that these values are significant. So here we can see that both are positive, both are positive, both are positive. That is why we can say that our values are significant. Or the actual interpretation of LLCI and ULCI is that the range between LLCI and ULCI should not contain 0, which means that both of these values are towards the positive side of 0. If one has a minus sign and one has a positive sign, then there must be a 0 in between these values range. So try and understand it. Just that either they should have the same sign, or you can say that the range between these two values should not contain 0. Now, this is the analysis that we've done for our mediation purpose. We will go back to our models and see if mediation is happening or it is not happening. But let's just do the moderation analysis. So let's go back to this analyze, regression, and process by Andrew Hayes. This time we need to do things differently. So first reset this window and make sure, because this time we are analyzing the moderation and we are using model number 1. So we have changed it. For our moderation, we were using creativity as our independent variable, innovation as our dependent variable, and culture for creativity as a moderating variable. Now, as we have given it model number 1, so the understanding of this M variable now is that it is a moderator. So you don't need to do anything else for the moderator. So let's go to this OK and press it. It is going to give us some more tables with the moderation analysis, because it is taking time, and you can always see that it must be saying that it is running the statistics. Now, it has analyzed, and as we've already discussed, it is going to give you that you're using model number 1. Y, which is your dependent variable, is innovation. X, which is your independent variable, is creativity, and M is your moderator here as a culture for creativity. The sample size is again 250. Two very important things here. First of all, this table has the interaction 1 term, and there are some results in front of this interaction term. Interaction term means that it is a product of independent variables data and the moderator's data. If you multiply the data of your independent variable with the data of your moderator, the answer that you're going to get is known as the interaction term or the interaction variable. So Andrew Hayes does it for us automatically. One of the essential things is to understand that these values are significant. So if you can see that we have a coefficient which is 0.20 standard error, and then we have a t-value which is very significant at 0.0001 level, and then LLCI and ULCI are showing the same sign, or 0 does not lie between their range. So we can say that our interaction term is significant, which means there are evidences of moderation. But another very important thing to understand here is that we need to see this table, conditional effect of X on Y at the values of the moderator. Now, this is very important to understand. It is giving us 3 values, 1, 2, and 3, 2.05, 2.84, and then 2.6445. Now, whatever these values are, the ideal thing is that we need to understand what do they say. Now, they are saying, because we have used a Likert scale of 1 to 5, they are saying if the culture for creativity is less, which means you can say 2 out of 5, then IV has a impact on DV this much, 0.7594. But when you see the culture is increasing 2.84, more than 2, the effect of IV on DV is also increasing. And when the culture is at its maximum, the value is even stronger. So in simple words, you can say that with the increase in culture for creativity, creativity has a stronger relationship with innovation. So when there is a good culture for creativity, there is more relationship between creativity and innovation, or you can say that creativity there has a stronger impact on innovation. Where there is a less culture, there is less impact. So by looking at this, you can say that with the presence of creative culture, the impact of creativity on innovation increases. And further, if you see, t values are also increasing, 11, 20, and then 19. All of them are significant, and then all of them are significant here. So these values are actually telling us the moderation effect of the moderator on the relationship of IV and DV, which is independent and dependent variable. Now, let's go back to our moderation analysis. And if you can see we have this moderation analysis, and we have already used the examples. And if we can see now, the total effect at as we have calculated is 0.7982, which means directly and indirectly both, when summed up, have this much total effect. Direct effect is the effect of creativity on performance directly, and indirect effect is through the mediator. So if you calculate and sum these two effects, you're going to get this answer. Indirect plus direct is equal to total effect. So in this case, we can say that there is a mediation effect, because indirect effect is 0.6683, and we also saw in that table that it is also significant. Direct effect is also significant. So now another debate that we can discuss here is that there are sometimes these two terms which are used for mediation, which are known as full mediation or partial mediation. Now, listen to it very carefully. This is the direct effect, and this is the indirect effect. So, if we say that this effect, which is the indirect effect, is significant, and direct effect is also significant, if this is the condition, which we got the results just like what we are talking about. If both the effects are significant, then you can say that it's a partial mediation. Some people believe in these terms and some people do not believe it, but just for the sake of understanding, because now we are saying that part of the effect, which is this one, is going from here to here directly without the mediation's help. And part of the total effect is moving through the mediator to the dependent variable. But let's suppose if we have this one significant, this path is significant in our analysis, but this path is insignificant, then you can say that it is a full mediation. Now, why we are saying that? Because now there is no direct relationship, and all the effect that is being transmitted from IV to DV is through the mediator. So you can also call it the full mediation. So if you have both the paths, which is direct and indirect paths, both the paths are significant, then you can say partial mediation. But if this path, which is the direct path, if it becomes insignificant, then you can say that there is a full mediation. Now, the same way you can go to the moderation analysis, and as we have seen that when we saw it, the presence of the culture, when it was at least, we saw the result 0.7594. When there was average presence, which means more than least but not fully present, you can say that 0.9213, which is definitely an increase from this. And then if you see the full presence of the culture, creative culture, then the effect also further increases. So with the increase of the moderator's presence, what is happening to the relationship? The relationship is also increasing. So we can say when creative culture is present, the relationship between creativity and innovation is strengthened, or it is more when this moderator is present, and it is less when this innovator is not, moderator is not present. So this is how we try and interpret these mediation and moderation analysis. We will also be making another video on the moderated mediation effect, but that is completely a different concept, and we are going to need a different set of variables and different concepts for that. So for now, you can just see how we can analyze and how we can use the mediation and moderation analysis using Andrew Hayes process. Thank you very much.